Don't Give Up Your Day Job, a local musician's guide. By me, Paul Gillings. An educational and sometimes humorous look at what it's like to be part of the local music scene. So hello and welcome to another edition of Don't Give Up Your Day Job, the local musician's guide. Now any local music scene has a moment where someone pops up on it. Maybe they're new, maybe they've been on it before and been away, but they come on, pop onto the scene and sort of with this effervescence, this energy, this new light, this new way of being that makes everybody go, hey, we're a music scene and we've forgotten. Like the music scene might have been lagging, it might have completely fell to pieces, but someone comes up and gets everyone fired up again. And I'm really, really pleased that I've got the young gentleman that I believe is the small spark that will ignite a huge flame in our music scene in Lowestoft, and that's Mr. Isaac Lister. Hello, Isaac.
Hello there, Paul. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Thanks for taking the hour trek over here. Your little legs come over and get some exercise and walk across sunny Lowestoft to sit in a tiny room that's soundproof to bake your pants off.
That's absolutely fine. That's why I'm rocking the swim shorts.
They are sexy, mate. Sexy, loving it.
True
absolutely loving it. I wish people could see this. I'm a lucky man. So Isaac, acoustic, guitar wielding, troubadour. The eloquence in your social posts is unbelievable. But I ask all my guests just for some sort of synergy, so that we can tell we're local and we hang out together and we're all friends. So how do we know each other, buddy? What do you know?
Well, all I know is that when I moved back here, I immediately started seeing what was about in the local scene, and it became apparent to me that there were people sort of desperately striving to make things happen, but these things, small pockets of people playing at sort of disparate venues, dotted here and there, and I just really wanted to carry on flying the flag and doing what I do in playing live music, having returned to Lowestoft, and it was from that and from getting involved in the Lowestoft music scene page and so on and so forth that I began to interact with other local musicians again and get bookings at sort of local acoustic festivals at places like the Mariners Rest, and of course I went and talked to the Stanford Arms about my open mic as well, and it's sort of from that page and certainly I met you at that Jubilee Jamboree.
Our first non-online meeting, so hurrah for Facebook, hurrah for the Lowestoft music scene page. Thank you, Ryan Redwood, awesome. And that's where we know each other from, isn't it? From online. And here we are, as young people say, IRL. In real, I've heard a little phrase, IRL, in real life, and here we are, mate. So that's fabulous.
We are
You
here.
say you've been away. Where the hell have you been all our lives, mate? Who has been getting the privilege of your energy and your talent? Where have you been?
I went to York. I went to the beautiful city of York.
It is a beautiful city. I've been twice in my life. It is gorgeous.
A pub on every street corner, they say, and they are not wrong.
My kind of town.
Not many sober years spent in York.
Was it student-y as well for you? Was you university?
It was. I was university. I did an electronic engineering degree with music tech.
You're a handy bloke to know then with this music stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, forgotten most of it over the years.
probably drink.
all the drink and the wild nights and the crazy times.
Good man.
But I had a wonderful time. It was a coming of age experience as university can be, and I had my first serious relationship. I started playing live properly. Post graduation I entered into a quite menial but vital couple of full-time jobs.
Yeah.
That taught me a lot about myself, because I think I coasted through a lot of my early life, sort of winging it with the natural intelligence.
That's deep and honest within the first 10 minutes of this podcast.
I know.
That's a new world record for people. Usually take about 45 minutes to open up. We're straight in, mate. We're straight in.
Yeah, I go straight with the jugular, straight for the jugular. With all of my deepest emotions. I think that's the kind of person I am, and I think people always like to sort of blow smoke up my proverbial, as it were, because when I was younger, I always had. Maybe I get it from my dad. Who's a car salesman, incidentally.
There it is.
There it is. I've got the and my mum's always had a flair for the English language as well. She reads a lot, and I think that's given me a certain gift of the gab, where you sort of end up with this faux intelligence impression. I like to call it, where if you have that elocution, if you have that ability to communicate with other people,
Yeah.
they assume something about your intellect. As a consequence.
I worked in factories for all my life up until very, very recently, to be quite honest. And being from Great Yarmouth, and as you can probably tell, there's not too much of a Yarmouth accent. It does slip out. But my dad was from Walthamstow in London, and in case you didn't know where I was, and my mum was German, so there was no Norfolk accent in my house.
No.
So everyone at school in Yarmouth thought I was posh. So it's posh boy. So yeah,
anything that's not from
totally
round here, boy.
And my mum had a good vocabulary because having learned English, she learned it properly.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I do find that people of other nationalities, that they tend to have
Speak it better than we do.
yes, because they put so much more effort into learning languages.
Yeah,
than
so
we
I
do.
had a mildly better vocabulary. I wouldn't say it was spanking, but I completely empathise with what you're saying.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to sort of become the posh boy in
No.
certain situations, does it?
And of course, it doesn't actually really say a great deal about your academic ability or intelligence, but I think it certainly aided me in being able to blag my way through life to this point, and certainly to do a degree where I relied heavily on my housemate Leo and his mathematics ability, because he was a bona fide electronic engineer.
Right.
He did the proper. I did the BSc.
Oh my God, there's so many confessions in the first 10 minutes of this podcast, mate. I don't think I can
I know.
handle it.
I'm laying it all on the line.
So you went to York for uni. Where did the guitar come from? What was your first foray into playing music?
I remember when I was a lot younger. I remember two things. Three things actually. Number one, my dad was in a band called Esbon Snare.
Cool.
Who were around in the scene.
Definitely heard of them. Definitely heard of them.
In the 90s. He
Yeah.
played bass in that band.
Awesome.
And I remember my mum always liked the Led Zeppelin song Tangerine, and my dad would play it on guitar.
Brilliant.
And he'd also play Street Spirit by Radiohead as well.
Oh, that's a strange combo.
that
And it
thing-
just goes to show how young your parents are as
Yeah,
well. doesn't
yeah, it does a little bit.
Thanks for
I do have
nailing
quite
that
young
coffin
parents.
for me early in the day.
I mean, to be fair, my mum and dad, were into Led Zepp, Pink Floyd, but as well as sort of Ben Zero, Radiohead. My dad liked
the
sort of
90s,
Deep
I
Purple,
think,
Jethro Tull as well.
Jethro Tull, I saw him one year. But the 90s were a complete retrograde of the 60s, 70s rock.
Yeah.
It was complete, like a retroism, and there were to my mind, the last decent time. Shoot me down in flames, everybody! But the last decent time there was as a proper music scene hitting culture, hitting life, hitting everything was 90s rock, and that's where my musical tastes end. And a lot of people say to me, "Oh, have you heard that recent band?" No. It was made after 1999, and I'm such a musical snob, unfortunately. But I'm trying, which is why I'm trying to make this podcast and trying to talk to people.
I really appreciate that, Paul.
I'm branching out. So, who got your first guitar then? When did you have lessons? Like, what happened?
It was a present from my parents. It was
Oh, they're very understanding. What lovely parents.
It was I was a young birthday, sort of pre-teenage, but kind of sort of heading towards early adolescence, I would say, and it was a Red Squire Stratocaster.
Check you out.
So
I only just bought a Squire Strat last year.
yeah, lovely
Blimey.
guitars, and considering their kind of Fender's budget range, so to speak.
They're good, aren't they?
They're very well made, and
yeah.
you for the most part, especially if you're a kid just learning, you can't tell that I was terrible. As it is, I was born with hemiplegia, which is mild cerebral palsy.
Okay.
So the whole left side of my body is slightly weak in a sort of skeletal-muscular sense. So
Wow.
it takes a lot for me to train my hands to play guitar, and particularly the right hand's fine for the picking and strumming, but in terms of the fretting, that's taken a long time.
I'm absolutely in awe, mate, because I've heard you play, and there's absolutely no blemish in it. Do you know what I mean?
Thank you.
It's not like you're coming forward with the excuses. This is, I think, mine was extreme poverty was the thing I think I've managed to overcome. We all have these little things, but we don't always wear them as badges, do we?
No.
Because there's no need to, because what the end result is, it's great music, right?
Well, that's it, and I think you can lose sight of that sometimes. That is what matters at the end of the day. I was in a similar position, in that despite the fact, like I said, I don't know if I've said it on here yet, but I was privately educated. I went to St Felix.
I see.
Should point out, with a very heavy scholarship.
My own prejudices will have to be buried down deep inside.
Bury the posh boy.
I do have an instinct to steal your cap and throw it on a school bike shed for some reason.
You should.
It's like we used to the posh
You
kids
should.
round
It's
my
no
way.
less than I deserve.
But I guess I'm just showing that I was just a horrible bully. To be honest, is what I was.
That's fine. I mean, to be fair, I did. It was from an academic perspective. It was a lovely school. But it was very much a bubble that didn't really prepare you for reality.
I was just upset that on my 11th birthday, that I didn't get a letter from Hogwarts, to be fair.
Yes.
It
yes.
wasn't anything else.
We'd all love
You
that.
got to go.
I noticed there's a fair bit of Harry Potter regalia in this room, actually.
It's just a little bit.
Let's secret passion of yours, Paul.
It's not much of a secret if anyone could see this room, is it? Let's be honest.
I do love a bit of Potter. I've recently finished the audiobook series by Stephen Fry.
I listen to an audiobook every night. It's the only thing that can get me to sleep.
I do the same thing. I cannot sleep without the dulcet tones of Stephen Fry.
It's genius. They're so well read.
And a Norwich City fan.
Other audiobooks are available.
Other audiobooks are available. Yes, of course. Have to be careful. Not too much product placement.
No, we can say whatever we like. It's on my bloody podcast.
It is your bloody podcast. That's
we
true.
We can advertise anything we like.
We can. That's wonderful. I should have brought all my sort of flashcards and that would read off what I've got. So what have you got going on, Isaac? Tell the fans. No, it's not.
Sell your merch. Sell it.
I always say it's not about me. When the truth is, of course, it is about me.
We did have that on an exchange over a text the other day, didn't we? And you said, I don't want to make it all about me because we might slip into the conversation that we're collaborating. Well, I say collaborating. I'm just blowing harmonica all over your songs. So, yes, we're collaborating. But he said, I don't want to make it all about me. And I said, well, you've got to be the star of your own show sometimes.
This is it. And I very much agree with that when it comes to the promotion of your own music, your own gigs, and things like that. I think what I was referring to when I said that was the Stamford Arms open mic that I set up. Because
yes, you were talking about that.
They were talking to me about, did I want to call it Isaac's open mic at the Stanford?
It would be really tragic for someone to have a night called, Paul Gillings and Friends, wouldn't it?
No, I don't necessarily mean that. Because
I know what you're saying. But that is deliberately, by the way, dear listener, I've been asked to do a monthly residence at our new music venue in Lowestoft called the Globe, which the two Bens are striving forward to do, and it'll be called Paul Gillings Friends because basically I'll be asking my musical friends who I have collaborated with to join me on stage and do music together. But an open mic is a very, very different thing, and I think it's the premise. I think it's what you're talking about, isn't it? The premise of an open mic is definitely not about you. It's about everybody coming up and a mic being open so that anyone can have a play. Yeah. Whereas Paul Gillings and Friends is obviously a closed mic. I get to decide who comes to play with me. I am the Lord of Land and Sea, which is what you referred to me as in a recent post.
I like to do that. I like to refer to people, make them, I like to paint the people whose music I respect as caricatures of themselves, because on stage we strive to be larger than life, don't we? And of course, it helps if we are built, if our presence, if our references are built around that.
If I can just grab hold of that point for a moment, because having seen you live now and seen some videos of you live and sort of obviously heard your own reviews of it, you are a huge presence as far as energy and when you're on stage.
I'm trying to lose it though.
I'm so rude, aren't I? I was referring to your stage presence as large. As in, there's everything. It's full on, it's energetic, it's listen to this. It's just everybody stop fucking doing your knitting, you stop knitting, listen to what I'm playing. I mean, as far as that premise of be it entertaining people, taking charge of the situation. Is that something you've always done, or is that something you've developed, or do you just believe that I'm here to entertain people, and unless I'm playing this like it's my last gig I'm ever going to do, then it's not worth doing?
Oh Lord, no! I was crippled by stage fright and anxiety for a long time.
Now you would never, honestly, if you watch this man, people, dear listener, go and watch this man, and you would not believe that he was ever a shy retiring lad. Seriously. So was this something you thought? So was there an epiphany, and you thought, right, I've got to go over this. I've got to give it 1,000,000%, or it's not worth doing.
There were two discrete and particular experiences in my life that have led me to this point.
Singular traumas.
Yes, and
you don't have to talk about them if you're uncomfortable.
No, it's fine. It's not traumatic in as much as it was a great learning experience for me.
Good perspective to have on these things.
It all began in the Seabreeze in Fair Lowestoft, back when it was still doing music.
Yeah, we've had a lot of chat about the Seabreeze on this podcast.
Before it became a martial arts gym, as I believe it is now.
Is it really?
I think so. Yeah, I think my stepdad mentioned he trains there. He does kung fu. So I think
right, you won't catch me in many gyms at the moment. So
the pub's my gym.
Yes.
I did plenty of lifting.
Yeah, lifting that right arm with that blue moon, mate. Go on.
That's it. You know,
the
lovely.
beers are available.
It's a lovely job. No, on with the story. I'll try to pile through this anecdote as quickly as possible. So, I'd played at the Seabreeze, and it was, in those days I was, and thank you very much to Mr. Chris Thurston for all of his time on the local scene, giving local acoustic.
Another name that comes up a fair bit.
Chris devoted a lot of his time and a lot of his service to live music and Lowestoft, and I think he deserves a lot of plaudits for what he did. Even in just doing live sound for acoustic nights, he never asked anything from anybody. He was there to support nights, and he loved it. And he'd do the sound, and he'd have everyone's back. And great plaudits to Chris. He put me on, and it was actually he who put me on for my first shows in Lowestoft, and I was a very introverted, folky acoustic guitarist. I was playing sort of Ben Howard-y style introverted stuff.
So hang on, last I heard you had a red Squire Strat, so did you get mum and dad to buy you another one? Posh kids.
So bloody posh kids got guitars.
I want a new guitar.
Mummy, please, mummy, may I? I've cleaned the stables, mummy. Anyway, no, enough of that, because I still have some friends from my school days. But it was like there were a lot of people with a silver spoon
for sure.
thing. But, by the by, lovely school, very grateful for what it gave me. On the subject of guitars, I think I've always had quite a scattershot sort of pastiche of influences, in the sense that growing up I loved sort of Green Day and then Muse. So I loved guitar music, but with that kind of pop sheen of rock bombast, not necessarily as gritty and sort of earthy.
A little bit showmanship in both of those bands.
A little bit, heavy on the show. Yeah, and I think that's where I saw Green Day at MK Bowl when I was 10 years old. That was my first major gig.
That would be a life-defining moment.
Watching how Billy Joe Armstrong owned the stage, doing King for the Day in a full crown and robe, and doing the call and response, getting everyone to sing along, and I was thinking, wow, that's who I want to be.
These people inspire us.
Yeah.
They absolutely inspire us, man.
I want to be that someday. And I think it quickly became apparent that I didn't really have any mates who wanted to be in a band with me when I was playing my Strat, because I used to go to the music room at school at St Felix, and there'd be a load of lads there who were basically jamming out Iron Maiden songs, and they were all incredibly talented, considering they could only have been about 15, 16, and I was like 11, 12.
Well, you can afford really good lessons.
But these lads had proper... I had a Squire... So they could afford really good...
Their parents probably paid for it.
And they, to be fair, they were the guitar tutor. I can't remember his name now. But he was there, had an on-site guitar tutor who would do guitar lessons at the school.
Yeah.
I could never afford them. I mean, I was there on scholarship as it was.
Sure, yeah.
But a lot of these lads did have them, and I used to just try and hit my guitar along, and they'd tell me, shut up, you're rubbish, and so I never really got to when bands formed at school, it took a long while. I was never invited to be part of it. So what I ended up doing was the music room at St Felix, as I remember it, was an upstairs open plan room with big double doors that opened out to these echoey concrete stairs that led down to the corridors of like individual piano rooms below. Each had a piano and a stool in people could practice in. But the open plan nature of the upstairs room with its old Bluthner acoustic grand piano was that I could sit there at that grand piano, and I began to figure out the guitar chords on the piano, and I would sit there and I would play and sing.
Fantastic.
And as I did that, people would come up and they'd tell me to shut up because, I was crap. But I stuck at it because it was great. It allowed me, that open plan music space allowed me to play to nobody. So there was nobody there, no threat of anyone seeing me. But equally, I knew that there were people somewhere out of sight downstairs who could hear me, and maybe just one of them would come up and say, "That sounds good."
Wow.
And over time, and we're talking a painstaking number of years of lunch breaks and dinner breaks, and times when I was supposed to be doing exam revision. Sorry to my old teachers there.
Well, you haven't done so badly for yourself, have you? So
no, I'd spend time playing in these music rooms, and ultimately I got the confidence that developed from that. Going back to what happened at the Seabreeze, I was playing a show there, and there was a woman watching me, and she said quite loudly, can you stop playing all of this miserable, boring stuff?
Wow.
That was what I heard her say. And the thing is I was about to play an absolute belter of a song next, which by the Raconteurs, the song Top Yourself.
Okay.
But the problem is I was already playing quite a lot of what some people might term depressing sounding material.
Sure.
And I then announced that even though it's an upbeat sort of bluesy rock song,
it is called.
the next song's called Top Yourself. And she groaned and walked out, obviously, because she thought that it wasn't about to get any more uplifting than it had been. But actually, the song Top Yourself is a very ironic take on the term.
Right.
It's not, outright encouraging suicide or anything like that, as you would imagine.
Yeah.
So that was that kind of that sort of put me a little bit in my shell, but also of a mind that, you know what, I'm gonna just bash this song out. And even though there was then nobody in the Seabreeze at that point, but I bashed that song out, and it was through listening to Jack White's music and his DIY aesthetic with the White Stripes and his solo stuff and the work he does at the Third Man Studios, his studio, that inspired me to find that kind of blues rock rasp from within me. And I when I went to York and went to university, I discovered a few local open mic nights, and I started playing. And that one of those open mic nights at the Rose and Crown, there was a promoter there called Graham. And the open mic host, Vinny, who ended up becoming a very good friend of mine, and I learned a lot from Vinny about hosting events and how to run them. He taught me a lot about recording, and he recorded my first album, My Kind of Nightmare, which still exists on Bandcamp, which is all of this kind of fairly ropey Ben Howard rip-off folk music I was writing at the time.
Oh, it's still cool, though.
But that
was
the thing. I was playing the stuff from this album at this open mic where this promoter Graham was, and I was waiting to hear if this Graham, even though he was just a kind of like a start-up promoter guy on the York scene, I was thinking, if this guy takes notice of me,
someone else will.
Someone else will. And then I've made it, and in the middle, because I was playing quite a quiet song because it's quite folky stuff, I overheard this guy say to Vinny, "He's not very good, is he?"
Oh shit!
And you see,
yeah.
And at that moment, I abandoned all my principles, and I said, right, I'm going the Jack White way now. I'm going to play balls to the wall, blues rock music from here on out. And then I self-produced an album in my bedroom called Chambers.
Because it seems to me like you got in on the DIY aesthetic, and sounds like to me that Jack White there was a big influence, because it's something that guys my age certainly, or guys who are from the same scene that I sort of I grew up on a different scene to them, because even guys my age haven't been doing it that long, but the sort of older guys seem to, I don't know, not have a resilience to or struggle with the DIY-ness. Having to promote, having to do your own recordings, having to make your own albums, having to upload your own work, having to get your own gigs, having to do that. But I guess back in my younger days, you would literally just concentrate on the music and then have everybody else sort that stuff out.
Yeah, and I also think that, particularly from the recording side, a lot of those things were a lot less accessible then.
Absolutely.
These days, as we know, as we sit here recording a podcast in your house.
Yes, in my home recording
anyone
studio.
Anyone can have a little studio, and what a lovely little space you've got there.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I'm glad you like it.
It's really nice to be here. It's clear that you've taken a lot of time over the aesthetic, and it's a good room to sit and chat in, and it reminds me of some of the better times and better places I went to in York.
Oh, bless you, man. Thank you. I am trying. It's been a long road, and it's been sort of very sort of whenever I've had couple of £100 here or a couple of £50 here, then I'll invest in that piece of soundproofing or that microphone, or I'll upgrade my computer, or I'll upgrade my input and stuff like that, my interface and stuff like that. So
working for Gear for Music before they went all corporate was
I bet.
The staff discount you could get in those days.
Oh mate, no, half of this stuff is from Gear for Music online. I tell you, both these microphones are.
Well, when you're able to knock 25% margin off on stuff, particularly the own brand stuff, which in the time I was working there, the own brand stuff, the Sub-Zero stuff.
Well, there's a Gear for Music cajon right there.
Yeah. Their own brand stuff significantly improved in build quality.
I mean, it's not. I mean, all right, it's budget, and it's probably we'd have a pro cajon player probably turn his nose up at that.
Yeah.
But for me, £40, I wanted to have a go, and I've recorded a few things with it. It sounds fine.
But equally, if you're playing a raucous live gig and you want to put your foot through it, you can.
Yeah, I'm not going to be upset.
You're not going to be upset. No, like the time I smashed a very expensive acoustic guitar.
Oh really? What did you break?
This is confession time, because
people are going to be upset.
My mum and stepdad still don't know.
Right, well, they are likely to listen to this podcast.
You know what? I am going to get them to listen to it, because
Force them to.
So this is confession time. This is a live apology from me, Isaac Lister, for my 18th birthday, they when I was particularly, because this was around the time just before I was going to uni. As I say, I was into all that.
Knowing how young you are, this was not that long ago. To be fair.
No, this, although to be fair, it's still the best part of a decade. Which, when your lifespan's as short as mine is, that's a long time. It's a long time in rock music, kids.
Yeah.
The window cleaners.
We're having the windows washed. That's not me wetting myself in a middle-aged incontinence.
That is the excitement that an Isaac Lister interview.
Oh wow! Yes, that was really going.
It's
live on air, people. We're having the windows washed.
Yeah, window washing.
That's cool. I'd forgotten he was coming today.
You got a ukulele? We could bust out a bit of when I'm cleaning windows.
I bet ukuleles.
No,
I shouldn't say that out loud.
I get it. It's
God.
It's small.
They're all the thing at the moment, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
Why is that? Do you reckon?
Everyone's doing it. I mean,
people fed up with a recorder and can't bear themselves to play the harmonica. So what's the next small and inexpensive instrument?
I guess it's the ukulele.
Do you think so? I can't figure it out.
I hate them. I hate them. Sorry, I shouldn't again. I shouldn't say that.
I totally get it, mate. I can't bear them. I want to know why you don't bear them. I know why I don't, and that's probably not that interesting. So why do you not like them?
We'll find out your reason after I say this.
Go on.
I sent Paul for context for the lovely listener. I sent Paul a demo of a track of mine called Fireside Dance, and it had probably the most ropey sounding VST saxophone sound on it. Because basically, I've got the Garriton Pro Orchestra suite, but it doesn't have any brass on it.
Right.
Or it doesn't have any saxophones on it.
Yeah.
So I was left.
Well, neither did that.
In lieu of
saxophone.
in lieu of knowing any saxophone players I can lean on, I decided to download an alto sax VST, which was crud. But the reason I mention that here is because timbre is the key.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the fact that I don't think, because, the ukulele as a small little guitar goes, it's got artistic value in the sense that, you can play melodies on it, that's fine. But I think it sits in a frequency range that is just annoying. Yeah, you just want, there's even bass ukuleles are just desperately wishing they were acoustic guitars.
I went to a jam session at the Carlton down the road here, and a guy had a bass ukulele and it had rubber strings.
Yeah, they do.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, they're not.
He didn't actually like me very much, to be quite honest.
Did he not?
No, and I think it was because I'm I don't know whether it was, and I don't want to say this in any sort of massive-headed way, but I've been playing a long time, and I've had a fair amount of training experience, and I'm pretty good at improvising. I can pretty much work out, especially with the kind of stuff that the guy was playing. So it was run by a guy called Tony, who was playing some folk music. Rolling home, we go rolling home, those kind of songs.
Yeah.
And I've known him for decades. I've known the guy when he used to run stuff down in Yarmouth and that. And he asks me, he says, "Oh, it's Paul, harmonica player. Bring your harps on, mate. Come and have a jam with us." And I said, "Yeah, well, they tell me the key. I'll busk along. I'm pretty good at busking. I'm pretty good at making it up." So I was making it up, and he called me up, and the bass player had been up for a few tunes. They'd been doing some songs together, so didn't have a lead instrument. So it's like, come and play some harp. So the bass player leans across me. I'm stood between the pair of them. The bass player with rubber strings on his ukulele leans across me and says, "Does he know what song we're playing?" And Tony says, "No, I don't suppose he does." "Well, how's he going to know what to play then?" And I said, So I'm like, "Hello. Paul Gillings, harmonica player. Nice to meet you, sir. That's an interesting ukulele you have there." And he sort of looked at me like, "Who the fuck are you?" So I said, "I'm pretty sure I'll work it out. If not, I'll go sit down." He just went, "We'll see." And I was like, "Oh, God." So, wow.
I cannot stand, despite the fact that I'm a posh boy from a private school, I cannot stand pretension and pretense when it comes to music.
Sure.
There's no need for it. And one of the things I did find...
You do know that you're talking to a man who plays the least pretentious instrument in the entire world. It gets no lower than the mouth organ. It goes mouth organ, snake, or snake's belly, mouth organ.
Oh, I don't know. Some
Ukulele?
Some of the things I've heard you do are truly remarkable. Ukulele is 1 foot in the grave already, I have to say. If not rotating on some sort of spindle inside the grave.
In a way, for me, why I hate the ukulele is that it's like, that frequency range, I get that, and they've mentioned it. Yeah, that does knock me on there. And I don't mean to go on about the ukulele too much, people, I'm sorry. But for me, it's almost like, why can't you pick the mouth organ? I've been sort of championing, and lots of friends of mine, and within the National Harmonica League and internationally as harmonica players, don't teach kids the recorder in school, teach the harmonica. They're £4 each. Do you know what I mean? And it sounds great straight out of the bat. Why wouldn't you? Why go for the bloody ukulele? It's just, I guess I'm just jealous. I think I'm jealous of all the attention that ukuleles are getting. Is that sad?
Yes, they became very... No, it's not sad. I realise what I did there, Paul, was I chose an inopportune moment to interject. That's what happened there. It was yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. I think I agree more on the recorder side of things. I think because the recorder really is a waste of space. The tone of it, the tone and timbre of it is awful.
It just takes forever to get a decent sound,
and even to keep them in tune. I mean, it's so easy. They're just so often so flat and so awful. Just in terms of the way they're manufactured.
I mean, I got a record because I was desperate to learn a musical instrument. There was no money in our family. I'll give the sob story just one more time. But it was just squeak, squeak. Squeak!
Yeah.
Squeak! Yeah. And your parents come through and go, I'm going to shove that little squeak in a minute, where I'm going to fucking shove that. You know what I mean? And, but I paid £8 for it, so you've got to learn to pay it. And I think that's what they still are now. I have no idea. I'm not going to let my daughter have one, to be honest.
But I think, I mean, it's easy to preach to this particular choir, but I think there's something romantic about the mouth organ.
Do you really?
I do.
Oh, well, bless you. Well, you're in the right place for that, my darling.
I think that's there's something... There's something mournful about it, in a sense. I mean, of course, it can sound jolly.
Well,
and
you do have prisons, campfires, places that it's sort of, I guess, old school, cowboy-wise or whatever.
Yeah, and particularly when I've been immersing myself in Americana for the context of this album.
Yeah, you have that mournful...
I love that.
And it's the closest thing for me, because of the way it's got no soundboard, because of the way it's got no, projection. You have to project it. Your body is the soundboard. Your throat is the stuff that makes the projection and the tone of it and the timbre. Yeah. So it's so individual and it's so expressive because it all comes from how you speak.
It's organic, It's like it comes from the voice. It's like a vocal line in some senses. It very much can be, and I do love. I mean, not to get too deep into the project now, so to speak.
Sure. But yeah, what project? Well, I mean, I want to ask you what it is you're up to musically, sort of at the moment, and soon, because we're getting up through your musical history.
Yeah.
We've done Posh School. We've done learning chords on guitar. We've done negative and sort of, but turning them. I think the great one about your gig experiences, your early gig experiences, early musical, is how you've managed to turn them into a positive. Think of the positive and use it as a learning experience rather than going, well, everyone hates me, I'm just crap, I'm fucking chucking it in.
I just hit the thing harder and decide. I made a cognitive decision at some point that people are going to listen to me whether they like it or not.
Awesome.
I said, right, okay, obviously standing here being like the next B-Tech Ben Howard isn't good for anybody. Mm-hmm. I'm going to smash this guitar to bits. But the thing is that then started to manifest itself in literally smashing the guitar to bits.
Oh, hence our story that you never finished.
Hence the story that I never finished, probably for the best. But as I've half admitted it, basically it ends in a gig at the Lake Lothing many moons ago, which again Chris Thurston did the sound for, so there's a neat little tie back to that. It's me finishing my set with a rasping version of Seven Nation Army.
Awesome.
That
great
iconic
tune. Great tune.
Riff. And basically, as I'd finished playing the song, and this was on my beautiful Takamine G series folk acoustic, about £400, 18th birthday present. The crowd was still. I mean, it was not a mosh pit in the Lake Lothing, but the dance floor in that back sort of stage room of the Lake Lothing was full of people jumping up and down, drunk out of their minds, going da 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 da. And I was still playing the riff on the guitar, and I was slowly lifting the guitar above my head, and then the guitar was above my head, and I took it upon myself to just slam the thing down onto the floor.
Oh wow!
And it was just through adrenaline.
Just in the moment of completely
in the
losing
moment,
it. Yeah.
And I was still going da da da. And I looked down and my stomach dropped because the thing was in half. I'd snapped the neck. I'd snapped the headstock clean off for one thing, which could have been repaired, but then the body was all shattered and the neck had come off with
done a number on it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So at that point, gets worse. I linked arms with a couple of mates of mine who were there, and we were doing the can, still singing the Seven Nation Army riff and stamping on the remains of this guitar. What I will say is a reminder to never do that to something that's expensive and lovely that you own and was that a sentimental gift. I've kept the back plate of the guitar and it's framed on the wall in my studio because it had this beautiful ornate back plate to the guitar with this lovely design on it, lovely sort of carvings in the wood.
So you sort of look at that
and I have a I remember the guitars. I mean, as it happens, a small-bodied sort of folk guitar.
Yeah.
Didn't turn out to suit the music that I would go on to make really anyway.
Sure.
But it was a lovely instrument, and I'm desperately sorry, and I only hope that my mum and stepdad can find it in their hearts when they find out about this to forgive me, because every now and then my mum says to me, "You've still got that guitar we bought you, haven't you?" And I've maintained this lie for let me think when this gig. So this gig would have been in 2014.
God, you did well to keep that secret then.
Yeah, so I've kept this a secret for 8 years. This guitar is. I've just said, I don't bring it out live because it's too sentimental and important to me to take it live. Actually, what happened is it bounced off the floor of the Lake Lothing a few times on its way to the bin. I remember Benny, the landlord, giving me a bin bag and a brush, and I remember literally sweeping the
oh my God.
remains of my guitar.
So if we went down to the Lake Lothing now, as I am going to in a few weeks, thanks to Mr. Graham Phillips of Two Pillow Lime,
yes.
And would we see pieces of your guitar on the carpet on the stage there?
I mean, I think you can still see the indentation in the floor where the initial impact. If people are on the dance floor and the open mic and there's a small divot in the dance floor, that's where I am.
Your guitar.
That's where the
dust.
Yeah.
Oh,
the end of the Takamine AG series. So that was from PMT, and it was a lovely guitar. And now it's gone.
But you worked for Gear for Music, you said, for a while when you were in New York, didn't you?
I did work for Gear for Music.
It's kind of had my mind blown today, and I'm sorry that everybody does this when you tell them. But I was telling people, and I'm telling everyone actually, that I supported one of my absolute heroes, 90s rock hero, Mr. Chris Helme, lead singer of the Seahorses. And upon showing you my signed albumettes and stuff like that by Mr. Chris and the glorious time I spent with him, you then casually dropped in. I used to work with him and carpooled with him every day for years.
Yeah.
You carpooled and worked with Chris Helme.
Chris Helme of the
Seahorses. I am so as you can see, and I've shown you around the signed EPs that I bought back in the 90s are on glorious display.
You're a fan, there's no denying it, and it's interesting because I am a little bit younger than you.
You're quite a lot younger than me, I think 20 years.
Is it 20 years?
Yes, so you're 26?
27.
27, yeah. I'm 46.
Wow, okay, so you wouldn't
What's
think...
your mum's name?
And where was she?
If your beard grows ginger...
Yeah, well, but if I could grow a beard, I've had to keep to the chubby baby face aesthetic because anything else, it looks like one of those kiwi fruits. It's not a good look. That kind of adolescent fuzz. I look like the cast of The Inbetweeners.
Oh, brilliant! So you worked with Chris Helme.
Yes, let's get on to that.
Because my experience with him, he was a little bit. It was. The gig was not incredibly well attended, to be honest. I was blown away. He was a little bit, defensive, a bit twitchy and stuff like that. But he was touring the world in a band with the best, in my humble opinion, one of the best guitarists in the world, and now he's playing. He obviously worked for Gear for Music, and he said he worked for Norwich and Peterborough, which is now Aviva. Yeah. And then he's playing in a small theatre in Yarmouth. So I get it, but what's it like hanging around with Chris? I'm not coming to talk about you, but tell me about Chris. Tell me about your time with Chris.
My time with Chris. So, first of all, I've always thought that he was a lovely man. He had loads of time for me. Yeah. And it was great to often sort of sometimes bleary-eyed in the morning after a gig. We'd both been he'd been playing obviously a much better and more well-attended gig than I had been playing.
Well, not when I saw him in Yarmouth.
Chances are I'd been playing an open mic to about 4 people and he'd been playing in some lovely theatre for 25 quid a ticket.
Jesus.
But, it was really nice because I didn't really have much of a handle on who Chris was. I knew...
Well, I was going to say probably, those singles that I showed you earlier were 95, 96 and 97.
Yeah. So just sort of long enough ago for it to be just a little bit before my
a
time.
little bit before you were born.
So I think maybe he preferred the fact because especially in York, I think he gets a lot of attention. You know, he's obviously people.
What you want is starstruck middle-aged men going.
A lot of
starstruck.
A lot of stuff, and I know he does his Chris Helme words thing where it'd be a great gift for you actually. Where,
yes, mate, I have seen them. I can't afford them; they're too expensive.
Where he writes out his lyrics and frames them. Yeah,
love them.
I'll see if I can get you one.
Oh, no. You did, Isaac. You did text him before we started, didn't you?
I did. Shall we see if he's replied?
I've seen your phone flashing. If he's replied,
I asked Chris Helme, who is a lovely man, and he used to give me lots of advice, and we'd speak in the car in the morning for work. I had the pleasure of working with him at Gear for Music. I want to say he's a diamond. And Chris, if you ever listen to this,
he won't listen to this. I gave Chris a copy of my album when I saw him.
Yes,
because I asked him like, "Have you got a CD player?" And he looked at me like, "What's it got to do with you?" Right, as you would, I guess. You'd wonder why someone was asking you. Or he probably thought, "Oh, God, it's another bloody musician trying to give me their bloody music." Oh, go on, hand us your music then. So I handed him my album, Mr. Smith, which picture harmonica. He went, "Oh, harmonica." I went, "Yeah, I'm supporting you. I'm playing later on." He was like, "Oh, really? Well, when are you on?" I said, "I'm on first." He went, "Oh, we're going out for something to eat, so I'll miss your act." I was like,
it's always
please don't. You know, he said, "I'll have a listen. That's interesting." But you messaged him to ask him if I'm with Paul Gillings.
I said I'm with Paul Gillings. I'm about to go on his podcast. He recalls meeting you when he supported you and he gave you a CD and he wondered if you listened to it and what do you think. To be fair, I don't often message Chris Helme. So,
but you did post that. I can message him now. I said, go on then.
Go on then. We did it. It was the Chris Helme mid podcast message challenge. I can tell you, Chris Helme has replied.
Has he really?
He has said, "Hi Isaac, good to hear from you. When did he give me that?"
Who the fuck is he, Paul Gillings?
He's put, "Hi Isaac, good to hear from you. When did he give me that? I get a lot of albums given to me."
There it is. Awesome.
I will reply live now. I'll say he supported you. Was it St George's Theatre?
Yeah, in Yarmouth.
Supported you at St George's Theatre.
A live text conversation with Chris Helme.
Theatre in Yarmouth. This is going out live.
Brilliant. That might stir him to say something. Fantastic. Yeah, mate.
I'll just put, "Say something nice.
Hilarious.
Hope you're well, man."
Oh, don't. Brilliant. Absolutely hilarious.
Excellent. So Chris did reply. He doesn't recall. Never meet your heroes, kid. That's what I'm saying.
Never meet your heroes because I won't bloody remember anyway.
No.
Fantastic.
But that might stir him to have a listen now.
Well, it obviously had a really good impact on him. You just put that on and thought, wow, that harmonica playing.
I will say I've listened to Mr. Smith and it's a corker of an album. You should all listen to it. It's very good.
Thank you, mate.
There are many copies in front of me. You can buy those. Please contact Paul Gillings for
They're going. This is my tray of things to go to the Globe because the Globe are selling local musicians CDs.
Good to know. We should add. Do attend the events that are being organised at the Globe. There's a lot happening at the Globe.
There's a ton going down. I was down there today. It's all happening.
And please, I really try to champion what's going on. Obviously, I've set up the Stamford Arms open mic that we run every other Sunday.
What's that about? So when do you do that?
We do that fortnightly on a Sunday afternoon, and we run from 5 p.m. And if the pub's busy and there are still people waiting to play, they'll stay open until a crazy closing time. So do join us. There's an acoustic guitar available and a free drink for performers. The aim is to encourage people who maybe who love playing maybe as a hobby but don't really know how to book their own gigs or don't necessarily have the confidence to follow through in playing 2 hours of scary covers in a pub full of people.
So come play 2 numbers, play 1 number, play whatever you can.
Play whatever
Jam
you want
with somebody else.
Play covers, play your own stuff. If you're a rapper, bring backing tracks and spit bars over them. I don't mind. Everybody is welcome within that because this town needs a platform.
Yes, and we all need to come together. And I like weaving people in together because my mate Tony from Percy's Pearls, Rag and Bone Man's dad, he comes down to your thing as well, doesn't he?
He does, Rag and Bone's dad.
He loves your open mic. I see he's there every time, isn't he?
He is, and it's a real pleasure to have met Tony Graham, Rag and Bone Man's dad.
He's a super experienced, super generous guy.
He's a super lovely guy, and not only that, I've having realised that he can play the dobro. I've approached him about some dobro because I think texturally on the album that we're working on.
So what else is it you've got on musically going on then, Isaac? If I could just talk about your music for a moment.
Talk about my music for a moment.
Yes.
Well, you mentioned Graham Phillips, Topolo Lion,
Mm.
a wonderful gentleman, lovely guy, and a real salt of the earth Americana dude.
Well, anyone that's listened to or knows of this podcast, he was on the previous episode.
Yes.
So, yeah, loads and loads of really great advice, really great experience for a DIY musician. Live streaming, just general recording, generally just being a musician and trying to earn money from it. With the direct, because he does earn money from it, he has a little bit of a part-time job still, but his main income is music, and there's some great advice on how to directly get there. And not just make money, but how to create good music too.
That's it. And all respect for anybody who is flying the flag doing that, particularly with the way the last couple of years have been with the pandemic for musicians. It's been incredibly tough, and to anyone on the DIY scene fighting the good fight, utmost respect. But Graham messaged me because he's began sort of curating events at Lake Lothing, and he puts on events where he plays, and he has a support act, and he asked me to do it. But he basically said to me, as much as they'd probably, he wouldn't be strict on it. He said, I'd prefer it if you could play mostly Americana originals.
Because that's his thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's his thing, bluesy Americana stuff.
Yeah.
And I love that stuff. I mean, I'm a big fan of Boss Kane, a York-based Americana artist who I dearly love, and bless him, he's agreed to do some vocals on the album for me. He's got this wonderful.
So not being your bag and not being your thing, you've literally turned your hand to a completely different genre.
Yes, this happened because Graham offered me the gig and he said play Americana songs. I didn't have any, so I decided I've got a month, I'm going to write an album. So I threw myself into it, and I wrote this album called The Winding Road to Everywhere, which is aiming, and certainly as I listen to more and more Americana, I'm learning things about the way I'm layering it up and texturing it and what I'm doing.
You have asked my good self to play some harmonica in it, and I'm beyond chuffed. And I've listened to the majority of the tracks, and what strikes me about them, if I may, is that they are Americana, but without the sort of, I don't want to say, how do I put it? They have authenticity as Americana without having to put on a faux American accent, because you sing more or less in your own voice.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, that you haven't tried to be American. It also ticks a lot of the boxes as what the subject matter of Americana is: wide open spaces, earthy experiences, planes, visions and stuff like that. And I think that just really comes together with that. And so you've turned your head from being someone that listens to Green Day and the White Stripes to suddenly go full Americana.
Well, it's interesting. I came along. I mean, basically, because as I grew older, I got into through a Muse fan forum, I got into a band completely unrelated called Porcupine Tree, who are bastions of British progressive rock and have been around since the 90s. A guy called Stephen Wilson, who is basically a genius. All the great prog bands come to him for remasters of their work. He's done King Crimson, he's done Toll, he's remastered and done the back catalogues of the lot. He's done Rush, and he as Porcupine Tree, he writes a lot of prog rock and prog metal. He's got his own stuff as Stephen Wilson. Huge inspiration to me as I sort of matured and got into progressive music and longer forms of compositions. But the way that Stephen Wilson works is he doesn't pigeonhole himself into any particular genre. He just wants to make great music of almost any type or scope, and to challenge himself to do something different on each album.
That's brave, because we can just be too easy and not easy, but it's to sit in our comfort zones, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to be. I didn't want to just be playing the same sort of stuff over and over, and also because I'm somebody who really struggles to finish a project. I think sometimes I get in my own head with it a bit too much in the studio. You know how it can be, and the cabin fever sets in, and when you've not got bandmates or anyone to bounce those ideas off,
stir it along.
Sometimes you go mad, and you end up putting terrible alto saxophone sounds all over your demos.
So when was the last album you released then?
Last album I released was Chambers, which was a Jack White inspired blues rock album in 2014. It was recorded in one weekend in my uni room in York, and it was completed without sleep in that weekend and one takeaway pizza. I need to hear this. Is it on Bandcamp? It's on Spotify.
Is it?
Chambers, yeah. It's
fantastic.
But basically, I had no idea what I was doing, and to be honest, it would have been perfect for your harp playing. It really would, if we'd have done it there.
Resurrect it.
Might want to resurrect some of those. So imagine the White Stripes aesthetic. It's basically that. Sort of. I'm running hot bluesy guitars and sort of big big crushed, smashy drum.
I can imagine some sort
tape-driven
of
drums.
fairly overdriven harmonica, and that would be good.
Yeah, all of that. There's a song
great.
called. There's plenty of stuff driven around sort of minor walking blues lines, all upbeat, that sort of thing.
Fantastic.
You know, all of that in there, and I loved it because I loved that sort of music, and I was proud. What was really interesting is all I wanted to do was to get this album done, so that when my dad picked me up from York to take me home from uni for the summer, I could play him it in the car. All I wanted to do
amazing.
was get that album done, so I could show him that. So I rushed through, like desperately trying to record the parts. I set up a little. I noticed you've got the sort of the acoustic foam there.
Yeah, it's not great, that stuff.
I bought 2 wedges of it from when I was working at Gear for Music. Wedged it in a little corner alcove. Yeah. Held it against because I didn't even fix it. Held a condenser mic in my van inside my wardrobe like that, and did all the vocals of the album in about 2 hours. Mixed it. Mastered it.
I'll never forget that kind of DIY stuff. I love that. My mate Trevor says he remembers balancing an SM58 on his desk because he didn't have a microphone stand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at the same
and that's
time,
the kind of DIY thing that I was doing. But the thing is with that album is I didn't know half of what I know now about composition, about
Well, you've got to cut your teeth somewhere, though. I really think that you've got to start somewhere. You've got to make these mistakes. You've got to suck a bit, I think.
Yeah, you do.
Is that Chris Helme replying to you on your phone?
We will check that in just 1 second. We will get. It's basically Chris is like a third guest. We should FaceTime Chris. You'd like that, wouldn't you? Get Chris Helme.
So he can really knock the nails into me so that he doesn't know who the fuck I am. What gig in fucking Yum?
Well, yeah, he would say it like that.
Who are you fucking talking about, mouth organ bastard?
Yeah, I mean that's a decent Yorkshire attempt as well. I'll give you that.
I've listened to too much Sean Bean.
Way too much Sean Bean.
My favourite clip on is that Sean Bean says bastard.
Yes. It's a YouTube clip, just an endless compilation of saying bastard. It is as good as Paul says. If you've not seen Sean Bean saying bastard on YouTube, it's gold. It's pure gold. Just to finish on what I was saying about that album. No, it's fine. Tangents are all par for the course here. We're all friends here. You and your old Apple Macintosh from the 90s there.
Everyone loves that.
Everyone loves the old.
Everyone loves to look at that. It does work too.
Little OG Macintosh, lovely. I like it.
1984 that.
Oh, nice, and some white JBLs. Anyway, I'm just saying what I can see now. Going back to that album.
So you want to play the album to your dad in the car?
And what struck me about it is that even though, like I say, I didn't know the first thing, I badly written programmed drums. You know, I wrote bass lines quickly. I smashed on a little practice amp. I plugged my guitar into a little practice amp, set up a dynamic mic somewhere near it, smashed out all the guitar parts.
Brilliant.
And yet I released that, and I listen to it now, and it sounds better than the stuff I'm doing now.
So this is cool. So it's under Isaac Lister on Spotify.
On Spotify, it's called Chambers.
I need to listen to it. That's
cool. The reason it was called Chambers is Chambers came about. There was a really under the radar sort of 80s film called Critical Condition.
Yeah.
Where there's a doctor called Chambers who basically gets told to F off. And so F off Chambers became an expression that my dad and his mates would say in the pub, and referring just to somebody random where you might call them mate, we'd call them we'd say all right Chambers, you know, just as like an offhand thing. And so that kind of, I called that album that as an expression for the everyman, you know. So Chambers is whoever you want him to be.
Which is why my album's called Mr. Smith.
He's the average geezer with the pub, same sort of thing. And I think it had that DIY aesthetic, but I've struggled ever since then to release anything because what I did in that album, on the course of a weekend, no sleep, I just sat down and I just did it. And I just did it and I finished it and I released it, warts and all, and it still stands up now.
Awesome.
Whereas everything I've done in the interceding 8 years, I have chopped, changed, written, got rid of, reworked, more songs and more albums. I've had ideas for about 12 different projects.
I do think that creativity needs limitations.
It does.
I do. I think, and I got that from an artist friend of mine who said, if you limit yourself to the medium or the media that you're using, not the medium, not like speaking to, you know, if you limit yourself to talking to only 2 ghosts.
Don't get me started on that.
So
there's one thing I can't stand.
So if he limits himself to, for example, paper and pen, or pencil and pen, or oils, or just torn paper and glue. This magazine, that A3 paper, and that wad of glue. Then you're limiting the bit you can do. So you've got to be more creative in that. And it sounds to me like you had limited resources. Is what it sounds to me, just from like picking from what I managed to get between me interrupting you endlessly is that you had limited equipment, you have limited space to do it in, you had limited time, so you did that and you were forced into this creative bubble.
Yeah, and I had no way out other than the idea that there was no way I was getting in my dad's car.
There was the time limit as well.
The time limit was there, and I'm thinking almost, is that now I'm blessed with a decently paid job role.
Infinite time, infinite money, infinite resources.
Infinite resources.
We've all done the cliche of the difficult. We've heard the cliche of the difficult second album, haven't we? Where band writes album, creates album gets successful. Second album they take 3 years to make and is a pile of shit.
Yes, if you can extrapolate that without the first record having had any success whatsoever. But that was the thing. It was a snapshot of the point I was in time. And trouble is, I love all of this lavish prog music. I love all this blues and acoustic music. I like different styles.
Well,
of
getting
rock
down
music.
to doing do an Appalachian, to do an Americana album is surely limiting the creative resources, right?
I think that's why I managed to actually finish writing the thing, because and that's the thing, restricting myself to it, and I think we are gonna drive forward with pretty much just Paul Gillings as the lead player on the album.
That's not what I was driving for when I slagged off your saxophone.
No, I know, but the saxophone deserved to be slagged off because it was absolute stool water.
Talk about that for a moment. It's tough because we had in that little exchange there. It was to me it was like, although I know it wasn't ultimately, but it's a fine line when someone else sends you something and says, "What do you think?" Right? Because a whole bunch of emotions and a whole range of ego on both sides and a whole range of everything go past you. So, do I be completely honest? What part of this is my taste and what part of this is constructive that I can say here? Do you just come back with, if I didn't like it, say for example it was rap music, I'd have absolutely no idea whether it's good, bad or indifferent. Yeah. I could tell you whether it was well produced, as in can I hear all the instruments, are they big and up and is it well balanced and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you, and I could, but I can't stand it, so what do I say? So you sent me this stuff, you said, what do you think to that? And the first thing I did know, I love Americana. I'd like to think I've produced a couple of sort of semi-Americana-y albums, 2 blues albums, and one sort of more rocky blues album. So I thought I knew a bit about it, I've played things, I listened to it, I know a bit about music production now over the years and stuff like that, and especially about sort of things, and that saxophone was, like as you've discussed at the very start of this podcast, not a great sound.
No.
But so I thought, okay, let's pick that out. And I was terrified to tell you, absolutely terrified.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely terrified.
Oh, don't be.
But I started to, this is what you can say that, but until I get there,
yeah,
this
I know.
is what happens when we try and critique because it's great to work, isn't it, together and get feedback on your stuff at very early stages, which it is. Yeah. And I use Danny as my sounding board and my wife. My wife is the biggest critic, who basically didn't like anything I did to start with. And then come album 4, she's actually I actually quite like that, and I've caught her playing the album and stuff like that.
Nice.
But Danny is very good at giving excellent constructive criticism. And it's for him, I noticed that it's a balance. So if I'm going to say that about the saxophone, then I need to say, well, actually, mate, that other bits of it were bloody spot on and sounding excellent. You've done this, that, and the other.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's always it's kind of like the criticism sandwich, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I'm not making those things up.
No,
that's still true.
I know.
But so you mustn't forget to say those things.
Yes,
because it'd be very easy to focus on the negative. You need to change that. Okay, well, what do I keep then?
What I would say to that is, I am somebody who I've always been fiercely proud of my ability as a songwriter. Mm-hmm. I believe, and I know I'm not alone in this because I know there are many people out there who are in my position. I believe I can write absolutely brilliant songs. I think my lyrics are superb. I think I'm great at it, generally speaking. And I know that's tooting my own horn.
No, because I find that way because I honestly think that everything I produce is utter shite, and I can't wait to do something next because it might be better. I have absolutely massive panic attacks whenever I release anything because I in my heart I know it's not as good as I'd like it to be. That I know that it's shit, and that if someone even says for 1 minute, right, I'm devastated.
No, well,
I know it's the wrong career for me. Clearly, I don't have that confidence. I really wish I did.
No, I think I've got confidence because I believe that I'm writing these songs for a reason, and I do it Because I love it so much, and because it means the world to me to have something to say, and communication. I loved poetry growing up, and the communication through lyrics.
Well, your text messages come through as absolute works of poetry, to be quite honest with you.
And like you say, you've seen my Facebook. I've always had this ability to just write poetry off the cuff. I can just do it like that, you know. I can, but it's also about the songs meaning something, and not just meaning something to me, but having meanings that other people can unpack, that set scenes or paint little vignettes of ideas. And
well, the lyrics on this album certainly do that. Definitely do that. It's some great sort of visualizations. You know, even Fireside Dance, the very name of the song. Yeah, we can see that. We love a fireside dance.
We love a fireside dance. That's the thing. But I think moreover, although I've got that confidence in my songwriting ability, I do know how to produce music. But I think there's sound engineering and there's music production. Right. And I think sound engineering is knowing about things like EQ and compression and excitation and saturation, so on and so forth. Whereas, whichever one I didn't say just then, which I think was music production, producing is more about having an awareness of space in a song.
I call it orchestration.
Orchestration, yeah, and an awareness of texture and dynamics. And actually, it's more about how the song is constructed than whether or not you've EQ'd everything so you can hear everything.
Absolutely, because let's face it, those things, the sound production is the icing on the cake, right? Because if the other bits aren't good, I mean, it's got to start with decent musicianship for starters, hasn't it? You know, can you play your instrument?
You got to play, and you've got to be able to play to a click, for example. Because if you can't play in time, you're barking up the wrong tree for starters. But that's the thing. I believe I can make a song sound good, but the problem is, Paul, when I sit down with my DAW, with all its infinite possibilities, is it's very easy for me to start piling on texture after texture, instrument after instrument. So what you've got is this maelstrom of just shit.
The first thing Raoul Crane from Blaze Studios says, I love it when people discover GarageBand.
Yeah.
You look for the GarageBand, there's like 40 instruments in there.
Yeah, this is it. And you go, ooh. And the thing is I've got Arcade's output synth as well, which is it's an online, constantly updated library of synth patches.
Wow.
So you can search for stuff in different genres, and people make patches for it, and so there's a never-ending, constantly updated library of instruments.
Jesus Christ.
And so that's so dangerous if you're a home producer.
Well, it sounds to me like, you know, I mean, for me, on what I did to set my boundaries, and it wasn't even a conscious effort, but thinking about it, I was limited by what I could do. So my first album, for example, was acoustic guitar, harmonica and vocals, because all I could play and all I had was an acoustic guitar. I had that acoustic guitar with that Hohner that I bought when I was 21. Wow. 21, and I paid 20 quid for that. So my entire first album was played on that guitar, in front of a microphone I bought from wish.com for 25 quid, because that's what I could afford.
Wow.
Plugged straight into that 2008 Apple Mac.
No way.
Yeah. And that's what I did the whole album with. Now, the reason it sounds is because probably it caused Raoul Crane at Blaze Studios a nightmare to make it sound anywhere half decent, like I'd recorded something that wasn't a piece of tin. But that's what I had. So creatively, all I could play was my limitations as a guitarist. Obviously, I can play pretty much anything on the harmonica within reason.
Oh, goodness me.
But all I could play to the harmonica was the chords that I could lay down on my limited guitar.
Yes.
Now, the second album, I again had that limitation of, okay, I found out somewhere that will sell me a CD worth of drum loops, and my wife bought me a bass guitar, and my mate lent me an electric guitar. So all of a sudden, this is the limitations of it. See, I'm not very good at MIDI, I'm not very good at those VST instruments, and I don't know how to do that stuff. So in a way, I think I've been limited out of that. So there was a construct within which, a creative bubble that I could only reach the edges of. But for you, with all that kind of knowledge, it's kind of like, you're never going to get anything finished, are you? Because there's just all more to add.
Well, that's the thing. Add that to the fact I've then got I've got the organ and the keyboard and all of my guitars, and I've got a modelling amp and all the rest of it. I really struggle to not just me.
It's like some ADHD, isn't it? Never going to stop here.
And I do feel a little bit like that sometimes, because honestly, if you saw the state of my Dropbox, Paul, I mean, you've got access to one folder.
Please keep your Dropbox to yourself. Or do I need the window cleaner back?
What happens in your Dropbox should stay firmly in your Dropbox. I think that's the thing. I'm so scattered. I'm very driven to get stuff done, but I need to package it, and that's why Spectacular Man is going to be the name that my sort of my original music's going to be coming out.
Okay, see, so instead of Isaac Lister, it'll be Spectacular Man.
Yeah, because Isaac Lister's going to be the guy who does covers and makes you laugh in pubs. Does 2 hours and plays your Ed Sheerans.
Well,
and
if I
Mr.
can touch on your live, because we talked briefly about your live shows, but you're great with the social media. You're fantastic with the promotion, and that's what I said about at the start of the podcast about, if we go full circle, about the energy taken to just put it out there and promote. So is this what you've got planned for the near future then? So it's the Americana album, the Long and Winding Road to Nowhere. It's
close enough. Winding Road to Everywhere. That's what we'll get there.
Winding Road. Don't get sued.
No one asked for a duet yet.
They did. But they're going to get one anyway, especially when the album comes out.
They are in a way.
And then the Spectacular Man. So is the Winding Road to Nowhere going to be on Spectacular Man?
That'll be a Spectacular Man album. Yeah. I'm also working on another one that's going to be a little bit more sort of a modern acoustic folk punk sort of driven thing. Which is called Behind the Wizard's Curtain. That's going to be an album that's
behind the wizard's sleeve.
Yeah, exactly that kind of. Well, it is designed to be a slightly sort of hedonistic pun there.
Yes.
And it is, but I'm hoping to bring these things up side by side. So I've got the more trad sounding country stuff on one hand, and then I've got the more modern sounding Mountain Goats influences.
I like that there's a little bit of a limitation on the creativity. So that's going to be an Americana album. That's going to be an
acoustic folk punk.
Yeah. So it's not going to be like, so then you can prog with strings and horns and.
Well, that's the thing. I want to be able to make Spectacular Man whatever it needs to be. The reason not to use the Isaac Lister name is I've always hated the idea of being for example, just making a load of musicians play under my name.
Sure.
And secondly, being something like Isaac Lister and the something because for my money and certainly my experiences in being in bands, if people are lovely enough to want to play on the songs that I've written, then I want to bring them into it and let them write their own parts for my songs as well. I don't just want to dictate. I don't want to be a band leader who dictates to others.
Yeah.
By calling it Spectacular Man, as much as it's what's in a name, and yes, I could just be like that under the name Isaac Lister, it gives it a chance to be, yes, it can just be me in a pub doing a 45-minute acoustic set. Yeah. It could also be me in session with a full live band doing something in a room, and it also enables me to separate it from the covers stuff I do.
So it allows for possibilities within the creative realms that you want to put it in, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it also means that a Spectacular, because I want to be very much like Stephen Wilson is and turn my hand to lots of different genres.
Great.
I want it to be possible for me to do a Spectacular Man album that's a rap album, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
I do rap.
Not sure I'll be buying that one.
Maybe not. But Paul, I do write some rap kind of in the style of the Streets sort of thing.
Mate, I do like the Streets, and I obviously, as a musician, I probably didn't make clear is that I have an appreciation for all forms of music. It's just some I'd rather listen to and I wouldn't. And I also don't feel qualified to comment on those genres of music at all.
No, but I think that's why I'm always on the lookout to try and discover. I use Spotify's radio algorithms all the time to try and discover.
You and Darren Stigler's very brave musical people that do actually love music and want to discover new stuff.
Discover all the new stuff, because I think even if it's a genre that you consider to be absolute tripe, I think there's always something you can maybe take away. I mean, this morning in the shower I was listening to Stormzy's Heavy as the Head album.
Okay, right.
On my way over I was listening to Psychodrama by Dave. Both of those are grime albums.
Can I recommend some K-pop? My daughter listens to a lot of K-pop.
K-pop, I'm aware. I'm aware of K-pop.
Listen to Blackpink.
Yeah, I have heard that also.
If you think about attention deficit, then perhaps listen to that, because it changes genre every beat.
It does. Twice and BTS are also K-pop bands. There's a lot out there in all sorts of but the reason I say this is because even if it sounds crap to you, there might be a single phrase of melody or a single rhythmic moment or a single production touch where you go, oh, I quite like that.
That's very open-minded, mate. That's very broad-minded. No, I really, really admire that.
So across my desire and my passion to make all of these different albums. You know,
focus and produce something for us so we can all have a bloody listen.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing.
We can catch you live. Can't we? Where are you playing next? I mean, they're probably gone by now. But what are you play? Are you got a regular spot? So we got the Stanford.
The Stanford Open
which
mic
is
every
other Sunday.
I believe on the let's think about when this is. I think on the 16th of July, I'm actually playing Gillingham St Michael's School Fete.
I say, rock and roll.
Where I think I've actually just been invited to compare the entire day.
Fantastic.
So I'll be doing the raffle and all of the rest of it, and
I can only imagine what you like at the
selling some cakes or something, I don't know, and then so I'll be there all day. And that's the thing. I try to be personable and kind and sort of inclusive is the main thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the driving point. For the love of God, whether you attend my gigs, Paul's gigs, anyone else, go to the Globe, support them in their new venture, come to the Stanford Open Mic, go to Graham's Open Mic at the Lake Lothing when he hosts that monthly. Support this scene, because anybody can go, and fair play to Ryan Redwood for starting it by starting the Lowestoft Music Scene page, but it's easy for people to go on there and promote themselves. I do it, you do it, we all do it.
Yeah.
People do it.
You've got to be included in it, haven't you? You've got to partake in it rather than just putting a poster up, haven't you?
The acid test is, will you go to somebody else's gig? Because I see...
the bummer is for musicians is that we're at our own gigs.
We are at our own gigs.
And when I'm not on my own gigs, I have a young family.
Yes, you do.
So, for example, I would take my daughter to the cinema tonight and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I'm not saying for a moment that busy musicians have to attend every single one of every
But you've got to be a part of it, whatever, haven't you?
Be a part of it. And if you can't attend, share other people's stuff. Share their posts.
It costs nothing to hit that little like button, does it?
If your
Absolutely nothing. If your mate's in a band, give it a share.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Or maybe your mate says to you, I'm having a night out in Lowestoft tonight.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, you should go to the Globe because so-and-so
are playing there
and they're great.
Fantastic,
go check them out.
Mate. Yeah.
And it's because I moved back here after the COVID pandemic to be closer to my family. In doing that, I was in in New York. I was in a function band. I loved playing sort of pop punk music.
Because you're off next weekend, aren't you, to go and play at the Butlins?
Yeah, I'm playing in another function band. My friend Nigel's, but he's the drummer in a function band called Relentless, who do the Butlins circuit.
Fantastic.
So they do Bognor Regis, Skeggy, Minehead.
Oh, mate,
I'm off to do the Minehead run because I'm
depping
depping for the bassist Adam, who's a great lad, and they've been very helpful and accommodating because I'm no bass player. But it's been a great learning experience to learn this 48 song function set. So I've actually, even this morning, I was vibing to Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars before coming in, doing the dum dum.
What a talent.
Dum dum, which was great fun. But
mate, I'm glad you're off to do that, and you're a super talented guy. We've come to the top of our hour, unfortunately.
I guess we have.
Yeah, mate. Can I trouble you to see if Chris Helme has replied?
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Let's end on a really good high note where he slags me off and says, that I used it to wedge open a door.
Chris Helme bingo. He says, I said, say something nice. He says, oh yes, it's great. So Chris Helme, you can use that. You can quote that now, Paul.
Great, yeah.
Chris Helme in quotes says, it's great.
Can you imagine if I did do that and like when I said something, like put it in the reviews and then tagged him, Chris Helme, like in speech marks, it's great.
It's great. And let's finish with a final message from Chris Helme. He says, having a travelling disaster today. Fucking trains.
Oh, yes. Yes, Chris. We feel your pain, Chrissy boy. We really, really do. Isaac, man, I'm going to put some links so that people can get hold of you and catch your music in the description to this.
Awesome.
But, mate, I guess we're kind of joined together now forever in musical harmony because I'm playing on your album and we're part of the scene. We're all in it together, aren't we?
We're all in it together, and
Fantastic.
It's been a pleasure to make your acquaintance. A pleasure to be here on this podcast.
Thanks for spending your
it's
time,
marvellous.
buddy.
The listeners can't see this, but here I am shaking Paul's hand. Cheers, my man.
Bless you, buddy.
Thank you.
Well, I think I should go and buy you a pint. Mate, good to see you, and I will definitely see you soon.
Yes, awesome. Thanks, man.